Okay guys, happy May 4th. I was so excited to see most of you guys, or some of you guys, at the parade on Friday. It was so much fun. I felt like a little goofball because I was so excited to see you guys. It was fun. So I hope that you guys get a chance to do that again because it was a lot of fun and I just realized how much I missed you. All right, as promised, we have now moved to 8th grade math. It is not as scary as it seems. It's fine. I promise you, you will do just as great at it as you're doing in 7th grade math. So let's start by, you guys have a new packet. It's posted on Google Classroom. If this is early enough, you guys could still go to school and pick it up if you want a paper copy. Miss Margaret has a paper copy and it's also in the 7th grade tray. But we're going to start with student handout 1, and we're going to start with squares and square roots. Now, a lot of times you guys have already know this because we have definitely done this before. Okay, so let's take a look at this, and even if you don't have this packet, it's always a good idea to just kind of write things down because your brain thinks better when you write notes. Okay, so when we square a number, we say that it's raised to the power of 2, and I don't know if you've heard that before, but for example, 4 squared, or 4 to the power of 2, is 16, because 4 times 4 is 16. So many people do this, though, and they think it's 8. It's not. 4 to the power of 2 is 4 times 4, which is 16. When a negative value is squared, be careful to know whether or not the negative sign is inside the parentheses, because there's a difference. And please pay attention here. Remember PEMDAS, and I'm going to move this over. Hold on. Okay, so remember what PEMDAS always means, that anything in the parentheses stays in the parentheses, right? You do that operation first, right? So negative 2 is a negative 2. Well, what he says when he squares it is, what if I take a negative 2 times a negative 2? Well, we know negative times a negative is a positive, and 2 times 2 is 4, right? Same thing here. If I have a negative 3 squared, well, what's a negative 3 times a negative 3? Well, that's a negative times a negative is a positive 9, right? But they might trick you this way, so don't get tricked. He might have a negative 2x. Now, if you remember PEMDAS, P is parentheses, E is exponents. So there are no parentheses here. So what comes first? Our little exponent comes first. This guy comes first. So that means you have to do that first. 2 times 2 times 2 is 4. So I'm going to get rid of that and put 4. And then our negative sign just comes on over, and the answer is negative 4. So there's a difference between this and this. Okay? So let's do one more. If I have a negative 3 squared, well, that means negative 3 times negative 3, that's a great 3, and that means a 9. But if I have it like this, first I do my exponents, so I have to do 3 times 3 first, and that means it's 9. And then this negative guy didn't go away, so I have to move him over, so that answer is negative 9. Tricky, but as long as you know that, it's pretty easy, right? Okay. So here we go. Now, the next section talks about taking the square root, and that's how we write square root, is the inverse of squaring a number. Oh, Miss K, that sounds so confusing. It really isn't. The square root of 16 is both 4 and negative 4, because 4 to the 2 is, or the 4 to the second power is 16, and negative 4 to the second power is 16. The positive square root is known as the principal square root, and when using this sign, the solution is the positive square root. Additionally, 16 is called a perfect square because its a square root is a whole number. Okay, whoa, so much information right there, but let me break it down for you really quickly. Okay, so when I talk about inverse, that just means they're opposites, right? So 4 to the power of 2 equals 16. Ah, but square root of 16 equals 4. And that just means they're inverses of each other. They're just opposites, right? This means 4 times 4 equals 16. And this means square root of 16 is still 4 times 4, right? Or just 4, because we don't need that. So they're just inverses of each other. Now, don't forget that it could be a negative 4, because what's negative 4 times negative 4? Well, that is just 16, right? And if I have square root of 16, that's a perfect square because it's 4 times 4. Well, that means what's an imperfect square? An imperfect square would be the square root of 17. Nothing times the square, nothing times nothing, or itself, would give you a perfect 17. You're going to have to use decimals, okay? Don't get scared of this. I'm going to do some problems with you. I promise it's not as scary as it sounds, okay? Let's work it out. Okay, this is the easy part. 1 squared, or 1 times 1, remember what this means. It just means 1 times 1. Well, that's 1. This just means 2 times 2, or number times itself, or 2 squared. That's 4. What's 3 times 3? Well, that's 9. Aha! Now, watch how it's inversed. So, the square root of 1 is 1. The square root of 4, this is why it's an inverse. The square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 9 is 3. So what does it mean? It means 3 squared equals 9, right? But the square root of 9, which means what number times itself equals 9? Well, that's just 3 times 3. So if you fill this out, you're going to see that these are inverses. So 4 times 4 is 16. The square root of 16 is 4. And you could keep going and finish this off. Use your calculator. I'm absolutely okay with that. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, so let's follow along here. What's negative 7 times itself? Now, go ahead and use your calculator if you want, or I'd like your brain to work. That would be 49, okay? Be careful when the negative sign is outside of it, because first you're going to figure out what the square root of 196 is, and then you're going to add the negative sign, okay? When it comes to something like this, let me help you solve that, because that one might look tricky, but it's not. Okay, so let's write this out. Negative 3 times, remember, it's an invisible times the square root of 225. Feel free to take your calculator out and figure out what the square root is, or you could Google it. That's fine too. Next year we'll be using calculators though. The square root of 225. And what that actually is 15 times 15. So if this is 15 times 15, then the square root of 25 is just one of these. You don't write both. So it's 3 times 15 plus 10. Aha. So 15 times a negative 3 equals what? 15, and go ahead and put that in your calculator. Remember, I'm good with that. Okay, so that would be a negative 45 plus 10. Signs are different, so I know to subtract. The bigger guy wins. So that's a negative 35 right there. Okay? And that's not so bad. And that was problem 9. Let me do for you problem 6. That looks really hard, but is not. Okay. It's a big fraction. Well, we could take them separately, actually. And we could see here, my instinct is to say the square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 16 is 4, right? So the answer would be 3/4. Let's test it out. What's 3/4 times 3/4? 9/16. So it's right. So that's the answer there. Okay, one more. Okay, that's a negative 81 plus 20. Well, what number times itself gives me 81? Well, I know that's 9. So I'm going to cross this out, and that's a 9. Don't forget the negative sign is still there. Nobody said he went away. So you got to bring him down, bring down the plus, bring down the 20. Signs are different, so 20 minus 9, and the bigger guy wins, right? So 20 minus 9 is 12. Oops, sorry, 11. Sorry, 11. So the answer there is 11. Okay, so I want you to try this. I don't want you to get nervous about it. We'll have some practice with it, but it's fun. You guys will like it. It's a lot of fun. All right, I hope I see you at homeroom chat today. Any questions, you could come and ask. All right, bye guys.